Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and yesterday we got some news, obviously, that a lot of things are changing and yeah, we need to talk about this, right? Because we know new content is coming for Shadows of Change. We don't know exactly what it is and we won't find out until, what, February? And it's likely that Creative Assembly are working on said content now, trying to add it in, coming up with ideas. There's likely not a devlog going on just yet. This is the time that we can stand together, we can give some suggestions to Creative Assembly, and hopefully get the content that we are expecting from a £20 DLC. This is important. We know Creative Assembly are willing to listen now, so what we're going to do is we're going to cut this video into 3 parts, and go into all the different sections to see what could be added in to make this DLC worth the price. So we're going to talk about KISLEV first, because it's a faction that I'm really keen on, and yeah, there's a few things that need to come into effect. Now, obviously, not all of the stuff that I want is likely going to make it in, but yeah, I'm just throwing some suggestions to Creative Assembly. Hopefully that means that we can just get something similar, right? So, Hag Lords are a big thing here. We need a Lord option for Mother Ostankya, and in general, we just need every other faction in KISLEV to be able to use Hag Lords. This means that if you want to theme your armies on the other side of KISLEV, remember there's multiple cultures in KISLEV, then this is going to be a great way to go. Alongside that would be the lore of Hags itself. For the heroes and the lords, this is a lore of magic which basically focuses on buffs and debuffs. It could even be done in such a way that the rune lords use their dwarf magic, essentially, where it's not really tied to the winds of magic. It would be kind of cool to see this, not focusing on damages, just buffs and debuffs, like I said. Pretty much what was the main thing here for the 2nd edition roleplay book. I mean, these two should have naturally been in the DLC anyway, because, yeah, I mean, we have the hero. Where's the magic? Where's the lord? Then we need to start getting some Ungls, right? Ungls are important for KISLEVite lore. And in lore, they are attached to the Hags. It's part of the same culture for the Ungls. So, you know, Ungl horse riders, heavy-duty skirmish cavalry, and then some Ungl frontline troops, essentially, right? I know a lot of people think the Kossars are that, and to be honest, they kind of are. Same thing with the Dervishes, but something different, right? Skirmish troopers with additional hand weapons, maybe even a bow. Also, I know it's a lot of hybrid stuff. KISLEV seems to be with a lot of hybrid stuff, but we could get some variants without the hybrid stuff. The idea is a few units here and there, flesh out the roster a little bit more. At the same time, we also need a Ungl Lord. The Ungl Lord would be a melee-focused Lord option for your Ungl armies, and the idea here is it's very different to the standard Boyar, whereas the Boyar is more melee focused, obviously frontline troop and so on. The Ungl should be a skirmish focusing lord with a horse and maybe even an elk mount. The idea is to be able to move fast and quickly around the area, hit the enemy from the flank, hit the enemy from the rear, whilst your other ones like your Zargard, all those types of troopers, are in the front holding down the enemy. Introducing some Ungls, maybe even a cavalry unit which is riding elks would be kind of interesting too. This could be a heavy skirmish cavalry unit, and the idea is, again, show the primal nature of KISLEV. Right now we're seeing all the ice and snow and stuff, but there is dirt, there is you know, that witchy feeling which is currently missing and really should have been introduced with Mother Ostankya. Now, the one thing that KISLEV is actually missing is a flying unit, so a big flying unit would be the Frostfiend. This has no official art in lore, but it does have a description. It's essentially just a giant flying ice bat, and that would be kind of cool, right? Give a heavy-duty, large flying entity to KISLEV so they have something fast to move around, to snipe out other big monsters, and in general, just something kind of cool, right? Lastly, a legendary hero, the Golden Knight, would be great. We've already seen some concept art regarding her horse at the very least, so it would be nice just to have a melee-focused legendary hero. I mean, yes, we have Ulrika, but to be honest, and this is something that I'm really putting out there for Creative Assembly, we should get 3 legendary lords and 3 legendary heroes as part of the DLC content, right? Everyone should get a legendary hero, because there's a lot of characters available which clearly don't fit as legendary lord potential, but we could have them as heroes to kind of fluff up the faction a little bit more. because right now Archeon has everyone, and it's getting kind of frustrating. But if we go to FLC, I mean, the only thing I want for KISLEV is a sled for Catherine. It's something that's been established in her lore for a long, long time now, and it's a colossal shame that we still don't have access to that sled. It's something that people aren't going to pay for, obviously, so have it as an FLC thing and just call it a day. Now, with regards to some other options, well, obviously we have to talk about the Thing in the Woods. The Thing in the Woods should be moved away. It needs to go to Chaos rosters. Give it to the Beastmen, because, yeah, I mean, it's a Chaos creature. It's literally in the unit card. I know it doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people, but keep in mind that I'm a long-standing Warhammer Fantasy fan. The lore is very important to me, and a Chaos monster should not be part of KISLEV. So what should happen is it should be moved to the Beastmen, give them a little bit more punch, and also give them access to Be'lakor. Be'lakor being the only War of Chaos unit that should be able to pick them up, as they are attached to him because of Mordheim, the tabletop game. It's something that kind of just fits there, right? I'm fine with the Incarnate Elemental of Beast remaining there. It's going to be a bit annoying to get used to, but give it access to, you know, the Empire, who obviously have access to beast magicians and wizards and stuff, and have historically known to be summoning them. And there we go. I think that that's some nice changes. Plus, the idea of this benefiting the Beastmen a little bit more, we've already seen that it does because of the Incarnate. It just kind of makes sense there, right? Oh, and lastly, I know this is going to be annoying to some people because of the meme, but the standard bears, you know, the brown bears and the ice bears, riderless, they should be available to all the KISLEV factions. Just fuck it. Let's have some fun, right? Make them available as part of on the same tree where you can get the bear riders and also the giant ice bear, and there you go. I mean, if KISLEV is going to go full ham with all the bears, considering that we have so many bears all over the place, we might as well just get the last remaining bears, which are available in game, but are right now only available to Mother Ostankya and Drika. Well, and Rakaf also. Alright, let's talk about TZEENTCH. We're going to leave Cathay to last because it's going to be the harder one, but TZEENTCH, super simple. Chaos Lord of TZEENTCH, melee version. Chaos Hero of TZEENTCH, melee version. Those are the last two remaining variants. They will be available to TZEENTCH Monogod and obviously the Warriors of Chaos faction also. Yes, I know a lot of people might be saying they don't like the idea of a Chaos Lord and Hero and stuff, but it might surprise you to know that, yeah, they were fairly popular on the tabletop. In fact, a Chaos Lord of TZEENTCH was considered one of the best in terms of melee, because holy crap, you could kit them out, and I mean, like, seriously, they were devastating. Same thing with the Hero too, because the natural ward save and so on, which, I mean, translates here. We've got the barrier and so on, right? Then Zangors with beaks, right? This is a big thing. We saw the unit card. That was actually changed, by the way, in a recent patch, I think. But yeah, Zangors did have beaks in terms of lore, not so much in the miniatures. Obviously, that's more of an AOS thing and a 40k thing. However, we have the AOS versions of the demons. We have old world stuff too. So yeah, visually, we should have these, right? There should also be a second Zangor variant with halberds. Why, you may ask? Well, that gives you some anti-large. Obviously very good. Yes, in TZEENTCH's roster you generally already have that, but that would also give some anti-large to the Beastmen faction. Yes, the Beastmen would be getting a lot of attention over here, but yeah, they kind of need it, and it would just be nice to have variants, right? Variants are always kind of cool, plus, again, anti-large. Who doesn't want some anti-large stuff? Next, we need a large single-entity monster. You might be saying the Mutilated Vortex Beast is already there, but that is actually an undivided creature, not a TZEENTCHian one. So why not the Fireworm of TZEENTCH, which is a large creature of TZEENTCH? It would basically be like a Chaos Spawn. It would work in a very similar way to the Mutilated Vortex Beast, but it wouldn't have an aura. Instead, it would have a flaming attack, a breath attack. It'd be fast moving, be able to do a lot of damage in melee too. It would just kind of be kind of interesting. Obviously still keeping the Mutilated Vortex Beast, but having something else which is kind of large scale. Because one thing that the DLCs generally used to do is have a big creature. And I wouldn't really call the Mutilated Vortex Beast a big creature. It was a generic monster that you could get in a kit. It wasn't a Forge World, big ticket item. So having both kind of works, right? One to be really good at like slamming into stuff and doing damage as an aura, and the other one there just really quickly charging in. It's essentially just a feathered giant Chaos Spawn, and I'm kind of all for it, right? The more avian stuff, the better. Now, this last thing is really going into some older lore. You see, the Exalted Flamer of TZEENTCH is supposed to be a hero, and the Pyromancer is the unit champion for the Flamers. Normally, we get the unit champion as a different thing, right? Kind of like how the Heralds worked, in a sense, right? So the Iridescents were the unit champion for the Pink Horrors, but they've become a hero. So, what I'm suggesting here is a Pyromancer Flamer of Tzeentch hero. This would give you a pretty heavy attacker, right? Because obviously it would be as powerful as a Flamer and an Exalted Flamer, but also as an actual character, either with the Law of Fire, the Law of Tzeentch, so you would have some options. Give it a choice of the mount or not, so you can have it mounted or you can have it on foot, and it could work as just a support fire caster. This means that Tzeentch is going to get a lot stronger, by the way, because obviously this would mean that you could be able to potentially add in more ammunition, replenish ammunition for your forces and so on. But, I mean, it sounds freaking cool, I'm not going to lie. The idea is also Tzeentch could do with a bit of a support hero, because you run out of ammunition fairly quick, and if you're just using the demons, you're going to run out of ammunition, and then you're just going to be stuck there in the middle of combat, you know? Now, I do in fact have one last thing, but it's one of these things where this isn't from lore, and it's kind of going into the end times a bit. You see, the Nurgle and Khorne factions have their exalted aspiring champions, right? It's the Wrathmongers, the Blight Kings, and so on. Slaanesh and Tzeentch unfortunately got nothing like that, mostly because the end times was a rushed piece of garbage. But we do need that, right? The Warriors of Chaos and Tzeentch are missing out on the Tzeentchian aspiring champions, and something would have to be made up. It would be kind of cool if we just saw some heavily mutated Chosen, essentially. This is where we'd start seeing mutations come into play, right? Let the art designers go ham and have two variants, you know, sword and board, and then obviously one with halberd and shield. And there you go, right? I mean, we technically have a new unit with the Doom Knights, which is technically an aspiring champion, but they're flying. But a foot version would also be kind of cool, let's be honest there, as, yeah, I mean, everyone kind of wants them. Same thing if we get the Blight Kings, for example. A lot of people, or at least I'm going to be complaining, that we should also get the AOS variant, which is them riding on Rotflies. It would be just nicer if we had a bunch more options here. Alright, so now we're going to talk about Cathay, and this one's been so difficult, mostly because we know next to nothing about Cathay. This is the problem when they work on a race, which there's not been a lot of lore dumps for it. Obviously, the first thing that we can talk about is the lack of a legendary hero. It would be nice if we had a legendary hero. I know a lot of people were kind of hoping for a melee-focused one, very Lubu style, and to be honest, I kind of like the idea of that. It would be really, really cool if we had a legendary hero which could do a lot of damage in melee, which would be very useful not only to Yuan Bo, who is currently invading Lustria, but also to Meow Meow, who's dealing with constant chaos invasions, and Dragon Bro, who's dealing with ogres and stuff, right? So give him a halberd, make him anti-large, but just make him extremely devastating in combat, and there we go, right? Then a generic melee hero would be absolutely lovely, to be honest. We are kind of expecting one, to be honest. I think that they wanted to do the Gatemaster. It's something that we've seen the concept art form. We heard about the Gatemasters also in Yuan Bo's book. And, well, we've got some skills with Cathay which increase melee damage for heroes and melee defense. And, I mean, you're not going to do that with your spellcasters. You're not going to put them up front and personal, right? They're going to be quite squishy. So a melee character there would be absolutely amazing. Cathayan human. Because here I'm asking for a second hero, and yeah, I'm asking for a lot of heroes here. It's mostly because I have a feeling that Cathay, we know, is like the most diverse faction in Warhammer Fantasy in terms of cultures and so on, so they're likely going to get the Skaven treatment, and they're just going to have a lot of possible heroes. So this next hero would be a Crowman, because, I mean, it just kind of makes sense, right? A Crowman assassin? Think about it. Very early on, you'll have a flying assassin hero, which can take out other characters super quickly. It just kind of works. Plus, the way that the lore was explained about the Crowmen, like originally during all the lore dumps and so on, made them out to be like single entities, right? Let's be honest. And it was just... They were Furies. They ended up being Furies. Now, don't get me wrong, they're actually fairly good as Furies. They've grown on me over the months since we've been able to play with them, but I still want a single entity. I like single entities. I don't really like Furies too much. It would just be nice to have both options, and this could be like a prime Onyx Crowman, right? Now, I don't have a lot of suggestions for Grand Cathay. Once again, we just don't know too much about it. What I would say is it would just kind of make sense to add in some terracotta warriors, mostly because we've gotten some statues already with the kitties, right? We've got the Jade Lion and the Shadow Cat. We might as well get some terracotta warriors too, as you'd imagine that the center of Grand Cathay, and obviously one of the big places where a lot of important stuff happens, would have some dormant terracotta warriors protecting the streets too, and then activated when needed. This would add in a little bit of variety. We could have some terracotta, a few different options actually. We could have sword and board, halberd and shield, and then a bow version too. They'd be slower, they'd be very durable, but they would be very slow compared to your normal living Cathayan troopers. And the idea is there just to have something different if you want to go full construct. I mean, we've already got the giant one. Why not have there a little bit more just to kind of flesh things out a little bit? A few variants could come in for all the stuff that we already have, because, to be honest, variants always work quite well and act as padding. It would be nice to get a few things extra, but again, until we finally see this fabled army book, it's very, very difficult to talk about Grand Cathay, and it's frustrating too, because, God, I have a feeling that we're not going to see Grand Cathay on the tabletop and the army book, the fabled army book, until like maybe 2 years post-release of Old World, maybe even more. So pretty much every time that we see something new for Cathay, it's always in Total War, and it's cool, don't get me wrong, but it's also kind of frustrating because it's very hard to sit down here and speculate. Like, we know there's, for example, monks and stuff like that, but those monks would probably be with like Li Dao, because it just kind of makes sense for Li Dao. I'm imagining we're going to get a lot of Cathay and DLC. It feels like they're going to Skaven it, right? It just feels like Cathay is going to be the Skaven of Warhammer 3. Now, this might not be enough for some people. It depends. I honestly believe that if we get DLCs like these Lord packs, it should be 3 Legendary Lords, 3 Legendary Heroes, and actually adding in a ton of new units. And I think that everything that I've said here adds in a bunch of new variants, a bunch of new units, a bunch of new entities. This is something that just feels a bit better. And in the case of the FLC general stuff, it should literally be a Legendary Lord and a Legendary Hero, right? So in terms of content for future stuff, hopefully, right? You know, Thrones of Decay and stuff, we should be getting 4 Legendary Lords and 4 Legendary Heroes. I feel like that would probably be the best way to go, as that, paired with a bunch of new units, would justify the price, I'd say. Because mechanically, everything is stylized and very unique. Like, sure, I'm not too keen on the Changeling, I'll be honest with you, but I do believe that it is better. I do believe that, you know, the Changeling, Ostankya, and Yuanbo are quite unique, quite interesting. Yuanbo not so much, but you get what I mean, right? They've got their own feel compared to the other characters in their specific races. So, yeah, mechanically it's great. It's just lacking on the other part of the content. But let me know your suggestions. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion, because at the end of the day, we need to start giving ideas out to Creative Assembly, because if we're going to pay this much money, right, if this is how much it's going to cost, then we need to be given the content to make it worth it, right? It's one of the same things with, say, for example, Warhammer Tabletop. It's always been a really weird thing. Thankfully, Old World seems to fix that. Old World, if you haven't heard, the announcement is that the boxes for Old World are going to give a full regiment, right? Rather than what happens with 40k right now. So, yeah, you know, that's what we want. We want full things, right? So everything is actually worth the money. It's still not a DLC. Like right now, I'm not looking at Shadows of Change like it's worth it, and I won't be able to do so until we actually know what the hell's coming. But yeah, you know, still wait. I'd still say it's very important to learn from this situation. Don't pre-order stuff, guys. Like, until you can go to the reviews, see some trusted reviews, and see if it is actually worth it for you. I know the discounts for pre-ordering are generally quite good, but keep in mind that Total War always goes on heavy sales, and that discount usually stays a little bit post-review time anyway, even with the other websites that make it even cheaper. So you're not in a rush when a DLC gets announced. You're not in a rush to buy it. Just be clear that you've make an informed decision. I know there's a lot of factors that come into play, but yeah, this is how everyone needs to look going forward. But yeah, have a great day, guys. I'll speak to you very, very soon. I do apologize if I sound a little bit rushed. I am running around like a headless chicken, as you know. Christmas is coming up. I live in an Iberian household. There is a lot of stuff to prepare for it. I can't wait for Christmas to be over. Have a good day, guys.